Long before ships carried the ambitions of kings across the ocean, the island that would one day be called Hispaniola was already ancient. It was an emerald world rising from blue water, a place of rivers that glowed with morning light, of forests that whispered the names of the gods. The Tainos had lived there for centuries. They did not call themselves conquerors or settlers. They called themselves Ukayeqe, the people of the land, the ones who walked in rhythm with the earth. Their world was one of balance. They built their homes in great circular villages, each house a palm-thatched shelter curved like the moon. At the center of every village lay the Beiti, a sacred plaza where they gathered to dance, to speak, and to remember. Their hearts were steady, and their lives were measured by the seasons, the harvest, and the sea. They knew the names of the winds, the habits of every bird, and the language of the tides. They honored Yukahu, spirit of cassava and creation, who made the world from his breath, and Atabe, mother of waters, who gave birth to life itself. To the Tainos, every mountain held a soul, every stream a whisper of ancestry. Their gods were not distant beings. They lived in the soil, the rain, and the stars. For many generations, peace was their inheritance. They were masters of agriculture, sculptors of gold and shell, navigators of the endless sea. Their canoes traveled far, to Cuba, to Boriken, to Jamaica, carrying songs and stories that bound the islands together like family. But peace is a fragile gift. It takes only one wave to erase a shore. In the last years of the 15th century, the horizon began to change. From the east came a sign the elders could not read. Great shapes rising from the water, higher than the tallest palms, clothed in white like clouds made of wood. At first, the Tainos watched from afar, their hearts filled with wonder and unease. They had heard legends of visitors from the sea, spirits or gods who would one day return. And when the strangers stepped onto their beaches, wearing armor that gleamed like trapped sunlight, they believed the stories had come true. The leader of these men was Christopher Columbus, an explorer in service of a distant empire. He looked upon Hispaniola not as a home, but as a discovery, a prize to be claimed for the crowns of Castile and Aragon. To him, the Tainos were not kin, but curiosity. Their gold ornaments shone in the sun, and he saw in them not beauty, but value. In the beginning, there was welcome. The Tainos offered fruit and food, water and kindness. They saw no reason to fear what they did not understand. But as more ships arrived, so too did more demands, for gold, for labor, for submission. Friendship gave way to conquest. Harmony gave way to command. Columbus built fortresses where forests once stood. He measured the land not in stories or sacred sites, but in mines and plantations. The Tainos were ordered to gather gold, to serve, to bow. Those who resisted were punished. Those who could not meet the impossible demands were branded as rebels. Soon the rivers that once fed the villages ran red with the weight of chains and struggle. The old ways began to crumble. The zames, the sacred idols, were broken or hidden. The songs of the harvest fell silent, replaced by the cries of those taken away. Yet not all bent to the invader's will. In the highlands, far from the reach of the Spanish, the great caciques gathered, proud leaders who carried the fire of their ancestors. Guarionex, noble and wise, tried to seek peace. Caonabo, fierce and unyielding, chose war. And Anacaona, the golden flower, whose poetry had once made the island sing, dreamed of freedom even as darkness gathered around her. They fought not for power, but for memory, for the right to remain who they were in the face of those who sought to erase them. But the Spaniards came with horses, iron, and gunpowder, weapons the island had never seen. They came with crosses and crowns, and the authority of distant kings. The battles that followed were brief and terrible. Villages were burned, captives taken, and the great leaders betrayed. Caonabo was captured through deceit and sent away, never to return. Anacaona was executed for defiance, her final words lost to smoke and sorrow. The remaining caciques fell one by one until the island grew quiet again. The Taínos were forced into labor on sugar fields and gold mines, their bodies consumed by exhaustion and disease. Within a few decades, their numbers had dwindled from hundreds of thousands to mere thousands. But even as their people faded from sight, their spirit refused to die. Because a people does not vanish when their homes are burned, they live on in the rivers that remember their reflection, in the soil that still carries their footprints. Their words remain in the breath of every islander. Hammock, canoe, barbecue, hurricane, fragments of a language that survived the storm. The Spaniards named the island Hispaniola, dividing it into kingdoms, filling it with plantations and wealth that would build their empire. Yet the foundation of that empire was built on the broken backs of those who first called this land home. And as centuries passed, new peoples arrived. Africans, Europeans, and the children of both. But somewhere, deep within the island's soul, the Taíno song still murmured beneath the noise. In the rustle of palm leaves, in the rhythm of drums, in the eyes of the descendants who still walk the land, the Taíno heartbeat endures. Their blood flows through the veins of every Caribbean soul. In Haiti, in the Dominican Republic, in Puerto Rico, and beyond. They are the ancestors who remind us that the earth remembers even what history forgets. Hispaniola was not discovered, it was encountered. And that encounter was not a beginning, but an ending, the closing of one world and the violent birth of another. Yet every dawn that touches its mountains carries both stories. The memory of the first people who lived with the land, and the echo of the sails that changed everything. The Taínos are not gone. They are in the laughter of children playing by the river. They are in the rhythm of the island's dance, in the taste of cassava, in the smell of rain on warm soil. They are the first light of a people who still shine, even after centuries of darkness. And if you listen closely to the wind that crosses the Caribbean at night, you may still hear them. The voices of those who greeted the strangers, the ones who built a world from harmony and lost it to conquest, and the ones who, even now, whisper from the stars.